Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fellowship of Fans, the Second Age show, where we report all the news, rumors, and leaks from the set of Amazon Prime's upcoming The Rings of Power. We are without our Ranger from the North today.
Indeed.
He's been traveling all sides of the map of Arda for the past couple weeks, so he's been he's finally made it home, but he needs to rest up before our next side quest here. So we'll see him back again soon. But in the
Wow.
meantime, we of course have Lakitia with us as usual, our disembodied voice today.
Hello. Glad to be back. Yeah, this time I'm traveling all across my part of Arda, so nice to be back and welcome to our new guest.
Yes, great to have you here. And of course, many of you will know Florian from the Council of Fans. Really great to have you here with us on the Second Age show for the first time, I believe. I think this is a first for us.
Yeah, hello. I'm Florian. It's the first time for me here. And yeah, I participate. I don't participate in the Council of Fans usually. I'm usually participating in the
The debate show.
Debate
The debate show, yes.
podcast. Yeah.
Yes, that's my mistake. Which is always
I
great.
mean, I
Always,
was one. I was in another discussion before, so
maybe that's
just
what I'm
not
thinking of.
not in the second date show.
The Tolkien debate show is what I meant to say. And that's always a fun time. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. And with all that said, I think we can jump right in if everyone's ready.
Yeah,
and
lead the way.
Let's go.
Our first big thing today is that we can say that Simon Morels will be portraying an elven character in The Rings of Power. So do either of you guys have any thoughts on that? What do you think of Simon Morels as an actor? Any speculation on who you think he could be playing? Anything like that?
Um, yeah, I think this one has been, polarizing the fandom a bit for a while. Like many have been speculating that he might have been like an elf for a while. I remember somebody actually asking him on Instagram a while back if he's portraying Celebrimbor, so this for sure has been something that's been floating around for a while. But I think the main question remains, who is he portraying? Because he's 56 years old. He's really fit and has those deep blue eyes. So given that he's also one of the bigger actors among the cast, I could see him portraying somebody like Círdan. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think then it's like so it's basically like 56 years old, and his general looks is pretty fitting for like a second age Celebrimbor. Like, of course, we don't know like precisely how old he is supposed to be in the show yet, but because we don't know when it takes place in the second age, like how many years have passed since the end of the first age. But like if you look at Círdan at the end of the third age in Lord of the Rings, he's described as like really old looking, except for his eyes. Uh, so like, and then he has a beard and at the end of the third age, of course, but this is like at least 3,000, maybe more years earlier, and he is like probably about as old as Galadriel is in Lord of the Rings. So you might expect him he might have a beard, but he might not. It's kind of a Tolkien doesn't really give us precise like years for the when that happens with elves. And he should still look pretty old in a way, but not too old, especially because of course they don't have the rings of power yet, so they don't have a way to stop the aging and the decay of time. And of course they can't use it in the second age. So this I think for age wise it really really fits. Like it's supposed to be an older elf, which is of course new or pretty like we don't really seen that in previous adaptations, but it fits to what his character is supposed to be.
Yeah, and this is a case where I think we can say likely it would be acceptable for Círdan to appear without a beard. But yeah, he's in his 60s. I think Benjamin Walker, who's portraying Gil-galad, is in his 30s, late 30s. So I mean, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer if we're having Círdan in the show, which we absolutely should, given that he's supposed to have one of the rings of power. This would be a really fitting actor for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, you did age him up a little bit there. He's 56, I think, so he's not quite in his 60s
I
yet.
reversed those numbers.
No worries. Maybe I said it the wrong way around before. But yeah, he certainly, if he is in fact playing an Elven character, he would be one of the oldest among the cast to do so. Charles Edwards, who is portraying Caleb Brimbor, is, I believe, 52. So yeah, so he would be even a little bit older than him. So I think Círdan would be the best choice here, perhaps. And with his eyes, I really feel like he has a mariner's eyes, so I think that would be fitting as well.
I agree. Yeah, he
Yeah,
definitely
kind
has
of.
those striking eyes.
Yeah, and that's like the only thing that we get in Lord of the Rings about his appearance. Like he has
Yeah.
when he's then in Lord of the Rings time, he has a beard and he looks old.
Yeah.
And I think the wording is like save for his eyes, which are
Yes.
I think keen as stars is the description. So
Mm-hmm.
the eyes
Yeah.
the eyes stay young in a way. That's
Yeah.
I mean those would be the same in the second age.
Yeah. I think that would be fitting. So.
Well, I have to say this is exciting speculation. This is just speculation on our part. We definitely want to see. The whole community wants to see Círdan, and let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. And I'll go ahead with our next one. We have a little source overview about regarding how the show is portraying Celebrimbor. The way they're approaching Celebrimbor is that not all characters in the show will necessarily like him, such as in council meetings, but they will respect him, and he seems to be almost an angelic figure. What do you guys make of that?
Florian, do you want to get this?
Yeah, for sure. Because it's interesting because like at first I was a bit like confused or didn't really understand like the almost angelic and respect, but I mean, of course, like almost angelic sounds like, of course, it's not quite like full angelic would be too much, of course, but like when you think about it, most of that fits. Like, not all characters in the show will like him. I don't think it's really covered much in the appendices. You have I think only the like a disagreement about whether letting Anatar come to your realm is a good idea or not. But I think that's like the basic, like, or the idea behind Celebrimbor, that he has some differences with Gil-galad and some other versions, which they could like be inspired by for the show, because they're vague anyways, like that he has conflicts with Galadriel and wants to do his own thing. And of course he's in the appendices version, he's a Feanorian, so there's already some conflict there. They respect him. I mean, yeah, he's at least like respectable in the sense he makes friendship with the dwarves. He's a great craftsman. He's the grandson of Feanor and is like probably one of the greatest craftsmen of the Noldor as a whole. And then, yeah, and he is one of the, I think it's not clear in the appendices, but he's supposed to be a light elf. So he's one of the elves that has seen the light of the two trees, and like Galadriel is another one, and those are like the only major elven figures that are light elves at this point that we will see in the show. And I would like it if you could tell that he is a bit of like, of course that doesn't mean he's like inherently like better than Círdan or Gil-galad, but it's a distinction that it's important for elves, so I would like to see that.
Kyle?
I was going to ask you to go ahead with your thoughts, but I'll just say really quickly. Yeah, I mean, maybe reverence is a better word. He might be a hard personality to get along with. That's fine because Feanor. But yeah, there has to be some respect as well. So I wonder if I have to wonder if there'll be any tension. Any tension there between him and Gil-galad or anything like that. That'll be interesting to see that dynamic.
Yeah. First of all, I really want to say that this is still all taken out of context. So what does it mean that he seems to be an almost angelic figure? I think this one in particular has so many possible interpretations, and we really will have to see how that plays out in the show itself before we can find any plausible explanation, I think. But that said, one of the things that stood out to me the most when reading this was I'm not sure how angelic and unlikable go together. But I do feel that this fits probably not necessarily Tolkien's version of the character, but maybe the general perception of the character, of course, influenced by the video games as well. And great characters are all the rage ever since, and even of course before A Song of Ice and Fire. And I kind of expected them to make some of the elves a little bit on the grayer side as well, as far as maybe their likability goes. So I think having Celebrimbor fill that role could perhaps work really well, especially with his eventual fate. So yeah, I do think his eventual partnership with Anatar could potentially prove to be quite divisive among various councils that he may get to visit. But I think it's a little bit early in the story for that to be the cause of maybe him being a little bit unliked by other characters. So yeah, I think they're gonna mold his personality in a way that it's not gonna be just the wise mentor figure that we've come to know in the previous adaptations of, like, the classic elven figure, like Elrond is that gentle lore master. I think they're gonna go in a very, very different direction with Celebrimbor.
Yeah, and it makes sense, because he's a Fëanorian and he moves out of Lindon and founds his own. I
Yes.
think, like, in regards to the Angelica, I think I have the same reasoning as you. Like, his behavior doesn't, or what we know of his behavior, and of course what his character arc will lead to, isn't really angelic. So I imagine the angelic description be like mostly about his appearance in a way, like, because it fits like the light elf idea, like the men who first meet Finrod think he's one of the Valar because the light of Valinor is in his face. Like, if they play on that and make him stand out in a way that he's the great son of Fëanor, and the Kuru Finn, his father, is also very skilled, and he is a very, he would be the High King if Maedhros, his great uncle, his uncle hadn't abdicated for everyone. So he is theoretically, or by lineage and so on, one of the most major elf or greatest elf in a way.
Yeah, I actually just want to address something that you mentioned. His departure from Lindon, I think that one could be played up for dramatic effect quite a bit in this show. I wonder if they're gonna build up a whole, not exactly conflict between him and Gil-galad, but I think they will certainly dramatize that quite a bit. Maybe they'll just show his independent streak, but I think they could be going a little bit further with that. So maybe them setting him up to be not a very necessarily likable figure by all of his fellow council members or whatever. I think this could potentially be them setting the stage for his eventual departure. So that really does make sense to me.
Yeah, and I think, like, now that you mentioned it, I have an idea, like, that ties into our next point that we wanted to discuss today, that the information that Celebrimbor and the relationship with the dwarves will truly begin from episode 4 and beyond. Because, like, I think the wording is kind of interesting because it says truly begin. Like, it feels like he knows the dwarves already, otherwise it would just say begin or start or something. So maybe, or so that's the hope of mine, because I like the idea, but they could tie his friendship and closeness with the dwarves into a conflict with the elves of Lindon. Because of, I think, like, of course we don't have the whole Silmarillion backstory, but like the whole elf-dwarf conflict, I mean, that's a big part, like, in the Jackson movies. So that's it. I think that's what people expect. Like, when they see elves and dwarves, they expect some conflict there. So maybe they could tie that into the story, that, like, Celebrimbor invites, like, dwarves in and wants to learn from them. And then, of course, particularly the Cinder elves would be like, oh, I don't want them here. And Celebrimbor is like, okay, then I'll move closer to the dwarves and just settle there on my own. So
that's a really interesting speculation, and it actually ties in very well with my own theory about how this could play out. What I focused on was the fact that we know that Elrond will have an interaction with the dwarves prior to that. So this is pure speculation territory of, the lowest class, but I think it's possible that, like, one of the possible explanations could be that Celebrimbor, in fact, is not in Eregion yet in the first few episodes. So that would fit my theory that we will only get to see Eregion or Austin Ethel established during the course of the first season. And one potential way that I could see this playing out would be to have Elrond visit Khazad-dûm in the early episodes, potentially Celebrimbor going maybe with him or something. Then just Elrond or both of them get to know the surrounding country, and eventually Celebrimbor expresses the wish to found his own realm, and Elrond, comes up with the suggestion that perhaps Eregion would be a place to do it. That was my way, but I think what you suggested could potentially play into this or stand really well on its own as well.
Yeah.
Kyle, do you have any guesses?
Just quickly, like, it'll be interesting to see, like, if we've speculated, if there's this tension between Gil-galad at all and Celebrimbor, and how, like, an intermediary kind of role Elrond would play would be super fitting for that, in terms of, if he's gonna go and help Celebrimbor found, or Eregion or whatever, and to bring the relationships with the dwarves into that as well is super interesting. So I'll be interested to see for sure how that rock breaking competition ends up going, if that ultimately leads to a stronger friendship between Elrond and the dwarves, or if we're really just going to see that relationship being mended through Celebrimbor and no one else.
Yeah. I think what ties into that, what could be interesting, is how they treat Rivendell in the show.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like in how Tolkien wrote it, Rivendell is only like founded after, there's an elven dwelling only founded after Eregion and Austin Ethel are destroyed. But maybe if Elrond is visiting the dwarves so early, maybe they could tie that into him, like, not even permanently living there, but maybe discovering that valley where Rivendell is together. Like, because Elrond and Celebrimbor are the two characters that end up near Khazad-dûm later, so that would make sense.
And he certainly is described as a young, ambitious, politician is the word they used. But yeah, that would tie into that description perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
I think so too. I don't think we will get to see the establishment of Rivendell for a couple of seasons yet, but having him travel around from Lindon to Khazad-dûm or to Eregion and just coming, across that valley, that would be really nice to see, and that would be really, really. That's the kind of fan service that I want to see in this show. So,
Like the same valley from the Jackson movies, but without the houses, basically.
Right.
I mean, that is the place that you can film still, so
Yeah.
they could certainly appeal to that. And I mean, it also ties in with the Hobbit, of course, because there you have Elrond helping the dwarves. Of course, in the Jackson movies, the dwarves didn't really like him much, but like Elrond and the dwarves, there's a connection there that makes sense.
Okay, now that you've mentioned, elves traveling across the lands, our last exclusive for tonight says, in the scene from the teaser depicting Lindon, the elves are being instructed by Gil-galad to sail to the Undying Lands. What do you guys make of that?
I'm not really sure what to make of it. Like, I see, like, the instruction makes it seem like they have a purpose. Like, generally, when you think of elves sailing west, it just, or Gil-galad wouldn't, of course, he isn't going to, like, ban or prohibit them, but generally you would think that Gil-galad wants to stay in Middle-earth, so he is not he isn't in the business of sending people away. Like, that's so you would think, like, it would have to have a purpose. Like, he sends them with some errand or message, or maybe it's just a ritual. Like, they want to go, but it's like they say goodbye to him or something, or they formally, like, resign from their posts or whatever and then leave. But I feel like it makes the wording makes it sound like they are instructed to go there. It seems like they have some task there, and like beyond bringing a message. I mean, is there? Maybe we don't have anything about Glorfindel or something, right? Like that's the only possibility I could see. Like that he tells the elves to sail west and tell the elves in the Valar there about their problems, and then they send Glorfindel as a response. But we don't have anything about Glorfindel, so
No, not yet, at least. And that's a really good point that you raised too. Like this is the information we were given. Maybe it's 90% correct, and there's a couple things here and there that will end up being changed a little bit from how we're reporting it. But it's certainly interesting because it definitely looks, that scene to me looks very like it's ceremonial, right? Like there's some type of ceremony happening. They're dressed in this garb, and some might argue that it looks like armor, where they're they've got the armor on, and they're holding the helmets, and I have to wonder if they're coming back from some type of battle.
And yeah, that's a good point about the armor too, because like you wouldn't, like when you sail west like that, you don't need weapons or armor, so maybe they'll drop or get rid of those before setting sail.
Maybe.
I don't know.
This was what Hen had mentioned when we first talked about this, was why would they be wearing armor? But to me, the armor looks very ceremonial, right? Like this could be just for the purpose of the ceremony. Like there's these gowns. They're wearing these gowns basically, and that doesn't seem very practical on a battlefield, in my opinion. But yeah, that's an interesting way to explain what's happening in this ritual or ceremony, right?
Yeah, it's really, I mean, that's like the most boring explanation, that it's just like a formal scent of ceremony. But I don't know, I think I'm not sure if I like the other idea, but I think that would be like, if we are saying, okay, if it's really about Gil-galad like has a purpose for them, that would be the only thing I can think of, is that they sail to the Undying Lands to ask for help or deliver information. But I mean, at this point, there's no real threat yet, so kind of early. Or maybe they're just, I don't know, maybe they're just stopping by on Numenor. No, maybe they're sailing to the Undying Lands, but stopping by Numenor, because I mean, that's on the way. But or meeting Numenorians, but or they could go to the Undying Lands and to Tol-Eressëa from there. But I feel that would be a bit like going against the whole Galadriel goes to Numenor thing. So yeah, I can't really make anything of that.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're right, and Gil-galad has sensed this rising, shadow in the east, and maybe that is what's happening. That could just as well be.
Yeah, I mean, they know, like Gil-galad's sense. Of course, that's Unfinished Tale stuff, but he sends a letter asking for help to Numenor like 800 years or 500 years earlier. So he definitely knows there's something coming. Just a bit, I don't know, it's weird because it's such a mundane activity, but if there's something behind it, then it would be very major.
Well, and that's the thing. That's exactly right. We don't have the full context. All we've been given is that they're being instructed to do this, and we'll see what why they're doing that, and hopefully that will tie things up nicely.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, with all that said, thanks for joining us today, Florian. This was really great to have you here. Hopefully we can do that again.
This was lots of fun.
And Laketia, of course, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being our host, Kyle.
Oh my gosh, anytime. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, you're just dying to be in the spotlight.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'll make sure I have the biggest frame on the camera here of anyone. So, anyway, we'll hopefully chat with everyone in the live chat when this premieres, and see you again next time. See you soon.
Yeah, I was
Bye.
See ya.
Glad to be here. Bye.
Likewise.